I quickly want to go over some things that may give some people and some students, since you're all students, motivation. And from talking to you, I realized that a lot of you really don't have any motivation to learn. And I can't blame you. I think it's expected. And I think why most of you are not motivated to learn is two important things. First of all, in Taiwan, you guys have a damn comfortable life. You don't have to struggle, you don't have to work hard, you don't have to worry about things. Your parents provide for you, the country is safe, you don't have to go to war, you don't have to fight for anything. So you have no motivation. When you don't have to fight for stuff, it's very hard to get motivation from anywhere. Second thing, the internet. Everything is at your fingertip. So you click one thing, you can find something. You click on another thing, you find something else. So why should you be motivated to learn, especially from any class or any teacher, when nothing can be as interesting and as fun as YouTube or anything else for that matter, anything that you can find on the internet. So I believe that today, because we have gotten used to a very comfortable lifestyle, a very I suppose a very, in some ways, a very unproductive lifestyle, where everything sort of like just comes to you. You don't have to go out there and get it. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to fight. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to risk your life. What gives some people more motivation than others is a particular situation. Let's say they are in a very, very poor nation and they're struggling to just survive, to have food on the table. Don't you think they're going to be more motivated than you to work hard and to do stuff? Especially since, you know, we can just go down to the food court here and we can get a nice lunchbox for 50, 60 or 70 NT, and that's nothing, right? What's 50 NT for us? But for some people, 50 NT is like a day's pay, you know? Maybe not even that. Maybe they have to work 2 days for 50 NT. And maybe in their country, food costs more than 50 NT for each meal. So you can understand why they're more motivated than you guys to learn, to work, to do anything. I do believe that most college students lack motivation because the internet can actually teach them better things and more things and more purposeful things and more essential things than their own teachers. I totally agree with that, and I could see why some teachers, they're not really making an effort to keep up with technology, keep up with the internet, keep up with you know, the trend of our advance in science and technology. And I think we really need to revamp the educational system. I think it's probably the fault of the educational system that cannot find enough ways to motivate students. Okay. But we cannot only or always blame the educational system and the teachers. Like I said, we need to be aware of what's going on in our society. We need to be aware that we have comfortable lives. We're maybe way too comfortable compared to our parents, our great-parents, great-grandparents especially. You know, people didn't have medicine. People didn't have the strict necessities. You know, you know, like 40, 50, 60, let's say 100 years ago, people didn't have a toilet in the house. They had to go outside of the house just to go to the restroom, or, you know. People didn't have hot water. They didn't have a shower, you know. And it seemed like in those days, and in that age, people had a lot more motivation to do things and to be productive than they are today. Because actually, you don't have to be productive today. You don't. If you have enough money to eat and survive, and you don't have to work, where should you get any motivation to do anything else, right? And I think other things that motivation is dependent on is, remember what we talked about? We talked about personalities. Like Reds are usually more motivated to succeed and to have and to gain than others. So maybe there's just not many Reds in this class that are motivated to get things done and to succeed and to achieve. Or maybe there are some, but they're not really aware that there are Reds. So hopefully some of these lectures and some of these lessons might make them realize that, hey, I'm really, you know, a power wielder. I need to go out there and get stuff done. I need to be somebody, get something done, accomplish something. You know, sometimes scholarships are a good motivator for students. Let's say if, like you guys, you don't need a scholarship. You know, you're in a good country, a good place. Registration or tuition fee is not very expensive. But some students, like our young student here from Vietnam, it costs a lot of money for her to study here. So that's why her father is her hero, because she knows he works very, very hard to pay a lot of money so she can be here. So that could be a good motivator for her. And I think if more of you guys were in the same situation, maybe you would be more motivated to study, because you know, hey, you know, my parents are working really, really hard. If you are Taiwanese, you know, and you earn average salary, tuition is nothing, because it's like a very, very small percentage of the average salary, right? So the tuition for one semester, it's not a lot if you divide it by the average salary, right, for 6 months. So this might be another reason. But then some people, like one of our students said earlier, that when she fails, she gets motivated. And you know, when you lose a job, I think that's something that can motivate you in different ways. Some people are motivated to commit suicide, unfortunately. And I know people that have done that, and you probably read it on the news. Or if they fail in a relationship, they're motivated to commit suicide. Some people are motivated to do even better. They think, oh, it doesn't matter because I could have had a better job than that job anyway, so I'm glad I lost it. Or some people think about the same in a failed relationship. They'll say, well, I could have dated or could have had someone better than that anyway, so I'm glad that it didn't work out. So there's different ways people are motivated, and ultimately it has to do with personality. So your personality can, you know, push you to, or motivate you to become suicidal, unfortunately, but it can also push you or motivate you to be better, to achieve more, to do better. And I think if you look at one personality that I mentioned in the book, Helen Keller. She is blind, she was blind and she was deaf and she learned how to speak and to write, and she became a very prolific writer. How do you imagine that someone that never heard sounds could learn, teach herself how to talk? Because obviously this is how we learn languages. We have to hear the words, right? Well, she could not hear. She could not see. Yet, she was able to talk. She was able to write. And another person is Nick Vujicic. I think that's his name. He's from Australia. He has no limbs. But he is so motivated to do what normal people do. He even does wakeboarding, or like surfing. He does all kinds of things, and he even can bounce a ball, and he gives a lot of motivational talks. Now, can you imagine if people like him and Helen Keller could actually see? I mean, he can see, but could you imagine if people like Helen Keller was able to see and hear? How much more she could have achieved? Can you imagine if people like Nick, if he could have limbs like we all have here, how much more he could have tried to accomplish in his life? So my take-home message to you is, you're normal. You have limbs, you can hear, you can see. What's stopping you? You can be way more. You can do way more than what Helen Keller did and what Nick has ever accomplished. So try not to focus too much on your comfortable life, on your commodity, on the internet, but think about it that maybe someday, life may not be so comfortable. Try to always think of the opposite. Try to think that maybe someday you will be faced with a calamity or some terrible situation. And if you don't learn, if you don't gain any skills, anything that you can fall back on, you might not make it. So sometimes it could be it could be a matter of life and death that you are faced with. So don't let only death motivate you, but also let life and the beauty of life and the fact that you have so much to use, and you have so much available to you that you can use. Let that be your motivator, not just losing a job or losing your life, or the danger or the being scared of losing your life. Don't let that be your only motivator in life. Okay? Have a good day.